seconds and we'll start this committee hearing. Thanks for your patience. Welcome to the Arts, Parks, Health, Aging, and Los Angeles River Committee. I am joined by my colleagues Tom LaBonge, Joe Buscaino, and Curran Price. This meeting is officially called to order. And we will start with item 1, Mr. Lidd.
Item number 1, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Misty M. Sanford to the Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners for the term ending June 30th, 2019.
Ms. Sanford, would you like to come up and join us at the table? Nice. We're always nice. And Ms. Sanford, this is a reappointment, and so if you could just share with us a little bit about your background and your experience so far on this commission.
Yeah, well, as you guys know, my background, I'm a real estate and land use attorney here in Los Angeles at the law firm of Munger, Tolles & Olson. I also have a long history of doing parks policy work here in the city of LA, in particular access to parks for low-income communities and communities of color. So I started a nonprofit about 14 years ago now that is still a nonprofit here in the city called Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust. And just my passion for access to parks is kind of how I ended up, I think, on this commission. I have learned quite a bit in the 8 months that I've been on the commission. I've seen pretty large projects in each of your districts. I've learned a lot from the staff. They've taken a lot of time to educate us. We are all a new commission. And so we were able to, they've taken a lot of time to do a separate retreat, to take us on tours, and really help educate us about the overall park system. So it's been a great experience. Is that enough background?
And Misty, what are some of your areas of focus in the past 8 months? Some of the highlights?
Yes, I think we've been honing in quite a bit on just data and making sure that each of the decisions that we make are driven by information about the use of those funds and whether that's the best use of them, and making sure that when we build new parks, we have the funds to operate and maintain them long term. So that's going to, I think that will be a theme going forward for the next 4 years in terms of making sure we do that. And the new general manager who's just appointed, Mike Schul, has been phenomenal. He's already started working on putting together information systems that will help us collect some of this data a little bit better with the launch of one of his new app. So I think that's what will be the focus. My personal focus also will continue to be community engagement and making sure that we're hearing from all of our park users. A lot of our park users we don't hear from and don't show up at our meetings. We tend to see the same people at every meeting. And so just really making sure that we work with staff to reach out to the folks that are using our parks every day.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for 8 months so far. And colleagues, any questions or comments from Ms.
No, I just wanted to say thank you very much. I think you make an interesting point. Often there's a person who's involved in schools, is passionate about schools, but is not involved with their neighborhood council. A person who's passionate about libraries is on the Friends of Libraries, and that's it. They're not going to the neighborhood council. A person who is a park is a friend of a park or a little league, a girls' sports league, ballet, dance, music. They're also controlling their lives, and they're not necessarily there. So it's very important to try to hear the voices of those who use our parks. And I could tell you, in my personal experience, since 1978, with the exception of maybe 10 days a year, when it's windy and raining. When it's windy and raining, it's tough to hike. But the rest of the time, I've hiked in Griffith Park. In 1978, there may be 5 cars in the parking lot in the morning at 6 a.m. Now it's nearly full. People are walking all over, which is good for health.
Right.
And it also has a factor that it does tax staff. We need to get more maintenance staff because that's the beauty of our parks when they look as well as they can look, and then also try to get a litter campaign, which has been difficult to know, because the trouble that our garden caretakers, instead of taking care of the garden, they got to pick up the trash because there's so much trash. But that's another issue that should be looked at. But I think it's so important to know that of the 400 plus parks that we have, everyone has an experience. I was in San Pedro the other night in Mr. Buscaino's district, and he and his predecessor were champions of creating public space. And it was unbelievable to see what people do in this public space. You know, the observatory is a public square in the middle of the park, which is amazing. Shakespeare in the park last night. There was 4,000 people laying in the dark at the old zoo. And they told me that a few weeks ago, a big owl watched the whole performance and didn't move. And I said he probably went to Oxford, you know, he's Shakespeare educated. So all this thing happens. You know, we live in an urban environment with a wilderness, and it's all a balance. But respect for public lands, respect for public parks, the connection, and the alumni. You know, Hugh Hauser, the late great advocate for all good, did a story about the 10th Street Salvation Army Youth Center. Mm-hmm. Somebody saw that who was like a farmer up in Paso Robles and sent $1 million to the 10th Street Center. You know, telling good stories, and I know Vicki Israel does tremendous with her partnership program. We have to look at partnerships. Partnerships don't happen unless there's a give and a take, you know, and a recognition. So that's so important for our parks now, because the dollar is no longer the dollar of the old, you know, of what it was. So what a great commission it is. You know, if I was a commissioner, I'd want to be on the Parks Commission, because you change lives.
An opening.
Oh, I know. But I'm not out of here yet. So, but I also want to compliment Mike Scholl and his staff and the work that they're doing to try to do that. And I also would like to ask, look at, because sometimes we meet with recreation and parks, there's a recreation side and a park side. Look at any new models that integrates it a little bit more. And maybe, and I say this, and Ramon Barajas is here, sometimes I think like at some of the big parks, the one park superintendent for that park maybe should be in charge of everything. Like at Pan Pacific or at North Hollywood Park, we have these large parks, and you have a maintenance side and you have a recreation side. Maybe there's one point that integrates it, because I think I've always said historically, sometimes you meet with recreation and parks, there's 5 from recreation and 5 from parks, and, you know, it could be integrated a little more, so to better use the efficiency of the dedicated public employee. Congratulations. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. It just goes to show that even owls find Shakespeare accessible. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we don't have an owl, we have a duck down at the fort.
Josephine duck. I call it Joe duck, but it's Josephine, right?
What tall duck?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Tom, over the weekend. It's great. And congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for agreeing to continue to serve on the commission. Missy, I know you have a great working relationship with my chief of staff, Jenny Chavez, and I think you look at your background, your knowledge of land use, and when it comes specifically in dealing with low-income areas and creating that park space, it's something, one of the reasons why I'm supporting this reappointment. Even more so, as you know, your commission recently approved the direction of commencing the negotiations with the UP land in Wilmington, in East Wilmington. I want to, as you know from my staff, this project is very important to us in delivering more green space in the East Wilmington area, known for its high industrial use adjacent to the Port of Los Angeles. I want to know what you will do as a commissioner to ensure that this project moves forward.
I think this project is really important. I spent a lot of time with the documents when it came before our agenda. We spent a lot of time considering it. I think you hit it on the head. I mean, it is a more expensive project, but it's in an area that is in very high need, and frankly, all of the land that's in that area is going to be contaminated. So, the issues that we're addressing there, we're going to address no matter what if we're going to put some more park space into East Wilmington. So, this is right up my alley. I am very interested in how we can turn brownfields into real parks, and to address those issues, we have to be careful in doing so and making sure that we protect the city. But so far, what I've heard, we've been able to characterize the contamination there. Right. So just making sure we update those numbers and fully understand them, and also, frankly, making sure that we compromise with UP, but also not completely let UP off the hook is an important part of this. So I'm very committed. I know that my other commissioners on my commission are also really excited about this project, but so we're taking it very seriously, and as well as the staff. So I'm hopeful that we can move it forward, and we have some other examples of at least a positive movement with the G2 parcel, also with UP and Council District 1. So it's not like this is brand new. Hopefully we'll be able to come to a resolution.
Well, thank you for that answer. Look forward to working with you moving forward on the project. And you have a great announcement. The general manager, Mike Scholl. We've had a lot of good news in the harbor, and he's been a champion for us throughout my district from Watts to San Pedro.
It's hard to think of someone more passionate and excited about our mission. So he's great.
I look forward to seeing him come before us as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Price.
Thank you. Missy, I also want to, along with my colleagues, just applaud your selection by the mayor. I think it was very wise. You certainly are very committed. And in talking about a person with a commitment and an ability to follow through, you certainly have demonstrated that. Not just, of course, with the parks, but with gardens as well, community gardens. I appreciate the garden at Fremont that your group was helpful in. I know you've only been there for 8 months, not a long period of time, but any successes in kind of breaking down some barriers, creating opportunities, encouraging access in ways that we haven't before?
Yeah, I only have 8 months to compare it to. I have been able to watch the general manager really grow into his role. And also I've seen a shift in the morale of the department under his leadership, which has been exciting to watch. The budget process was a difficult one. I stepped right into that hornet's nest when I came on. But there has been some wins in terms of they did allow 119 positions, and so being able to refill our ranks. We've been out without 11 supervisors in the Gardner level for quite some time. So being able to fill those positions, being able to start really taking care of our parks we do have. And so there has been quite a bit of progress there. And in terms of equity and access, a lot of that has to be driven by information. And so we are now, I have seen a big push to start collecting that information and analyzing that information and thinking about that. So I know the general manager and all of his executive folks underneath him are thinking about those issues now, which is exciting to see. And I do think it comes from the top. And so that's great. And also the folks down at the bottom also live it every day. So there has been we have a lot to do. It's not going to be an easy 4 years, I don't think. But I'm excited about the challenge.
Well, again, we appreciate the efforts of you and your fellow board members. I think it's an exciting group, and we look forward to your leadership on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
And last thing I wanted to add, too, I have a motion kicking around, Ms. Kim, I believe, somewhere, Joint Use Commission, Recreation and Parks, LA Unified, LA Community College, we all have
where are we at
fields.
on that?
We're going to find out, but maybe that's something you may want to champion, because it's all the same people's money in the sense of the taxpayers and the enhancement of that, so...
Yeah, and as Councilmember Price mentioned, we've had a lot of success with Fremont High and opening that up,
Right.
and Rec and Parks is not directly involved in that, but that's a model that we should be looking at.
Yeah,
with
the
LAUSD.
joint use, absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lidd, any comments on this item? No cards? No cards. Seeing as there are no cards, colleagues, I recommend that we approve the appointment of Misty Sanford and move forward to the full council for consideration. Objection. Forthwith, which means really quick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Misty. Thank you.
Once you get
All right.
We don't have a date yet.
All right. Colleagues, if there are no public comments on the following items, I would like to take items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and items 9 and 10 on consent without objections.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, no objections. We will take those items on consent, seeing as there are no...
Number 2, is there a representative here for number 2? From the...
So 2 won't be on consent. We will hear item 2.
Okay, good, I just want to make sure. So which ones are consent? 3?
The other consent items are 3, 4, 5, and 6, and items 9 and 10.
Got it.
So we will hear item 2, Mr. Lidd.
Item number 2, Department of Recreation and Parks report relative to grant funding for the National Recreation and Parks Association engaging Hispanic community in urban forestry program.
Good afternoon. Isafine Atkinson, Department of Recreation and Parks, Grants Administration. Item 2 is requesting council approval to accept a grant from the National Recreation and Parks Association for the Engaging Hispanic Community and Urban Forestry Program in the amount of $7,500.
Thank you. Do you want to just to give us a few details about the grant, Ms. Atkinson?
Sure. We were contacted by the National Recreation and Parks Association, who is working with the long names here, working with the National Environmental Education Foundation. They were asked to seek nonprofit agencies to help provide environmental tree education programs through nonprofits to the Hispanic community, and asked the City of Houston and the City of LA to assist in helping them provide that education program. The program will engage the Hispanic communities through the Tree People, the Northeast Trees, and Hollywood Beautification Team nonprofit organizations. They will conduct 3 to 5 events each and work with our department to get the outreach to the Hispanic communities in providing the educational program.
Terrific. And what is the size of the grant again?
It's $7,500.
Okay.
Each of the nonprofits will be awarded $5,000 each. The $7,500 grant that the department was awarded is to offset the costs associated with our participation in helping the nonprofits.
Terrific. Mr. LaBonge?
I just wanted to say, I think maybe we could also ask the department that sometime we should have a National Forest Week in Los Angeles City Parks, just to point and direction. I mean, a lot of people find their way. It's amazing the diversity that gets there. We're more too. There's 4 national forests, that you could see from the top of Mount Hollywood above the observatory. The Angeles, which is the backdrop of Los Angeles, San Bernardino to the east, Cleveland to the southeast, National Forest, and then the Los Padres, which is amazing, plus the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, which is a national parkland as well. But telling people that, because one of the challenges I have, and I thank you for all your support, parks are so popular now that people are sometimes, well, because when we buy the land, and I told this to people, I didn't buy it for you just to look at it. I want you to be on it and hike, and match out the needs that are there. So I think if I could ask you to, we should approve this, but I want to know, Mr. Contreras, the superintendent for Angeles?
No, I'm not.
Well, we'll all put together. We should all meet him. All of you should meet him. He's a great guy. They want our residents in their parks. And the USA Today did a story and said most people in the national parks are 55 to 65 and Anglo and husband and wife and got a camper. I mean, there's a whole lot of people who could enjoy that nature. So let's get the grant, but I see some of the top team here from Reckitt Parks. Please tell Mr. Scholl I want to be involved. I think Mr. Garcetti, who said, I want to bring everybody together, it's a good way to do that with the National Forest Week or something. Los Angeles salutes it. And let me ask Mr. Buscain a question. If we put the words LOS in front of Angeles National Forest, what would the National Forest be called?
I love your vision.
Okay.
If I can add, the department is committed to improving the tree inventory program, and we were awarded a grant from the CAL FIRE department, State Department, for $200 and have improved our tree inventory database and are making that available online currently.
Terrific. Thank you. And Tom, when is National Forest Day?
Well, I'm going to check with Debbie Kim because we're gonna find out when it is and we'll let you know.
All right. Well,
Be good.
We'll all show up with our gear ready to go.
Absolutely. You don't need nothing but good hiking shoes.
Well, I know,
No,
but
that's good.
you got some sunscreen and a hat. And some
All right. Well,
shoes.
you or your Silver Lake, you got that hat all there.
All right, thank you, Ms. Atkinson.
you.
So,
Mr. Chairman, just...
oh, yes, oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
just a quick
Yes, Mr.
question,
Price.
Ms. Atkins. First of all, thanks you for your service. I know you've been working on making monies available for a number of years. Appreciate your service there. On this one, you said 3 nonprofits to facilitate the outreach. Are they kind of dividing up the city into 3 parts? Or are they all going to be kind of working all over, or how is that going to work?
Good point.
That is the attempt. Currently, the Northeast Trees Organization will be hosting all of their events at the Ascot Hills facility. The other 2 agencies are working with our Forestry Division to identify the better sites throughout the city.
We'd like to, in the 9th at least, we'd like to be a part of that discussion
I will
to assist you in that effort.
Communicate
All right,
that
thank you.
to them.
And it should be noted also that Hollywood Beautification Team is now Los Angeles Beautification Team because they are citywide. And so they have existed for a couple of decades now, so it's hard to rebrand, but they have projects all over the city.
Good
and
point.
even beyond. So they're really great partners.
Yeah, and that's-
In fact, we just did a tree planting, happened to be in Hollywood, with them over the weekend around Helen Bernstein High School. So,
Right, at Lacan. You were on the Lacan side of the street. I saw your work. Good work
okay,
there.
you know, we
Mitch.
plant trees.
And you're on the west side of the street. And I think Slauson Park is the best. That's a very good point, because I encourage you to have that base. Because the one thing that happens in the fall and in the winter in Los Angeles, the heat dies down and the fog goes away, and people are able to see the mountains. And I think if you can see the mountains, you should go there. Every child should go to Mount Wilson. Every child should get into those forests, because it may change their life, of course.
Great.
Good point. I'll back you 1,000%.
Thank you. So without objection, this item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And colleagues, just to reiterate, do we have agreement that 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 are on consent?
Move it.
Yes, so
Okay, so
moved.
those are done. All right, thank you, colleagues. So,
Forthwith.
yeah, there you go. We're
got it.
cranking along today here.
One councilman's listening to me. Thank you.
I'm learning, I'm learning.
You got it.
All right.
Tabulate the vote.
Mr. Lid, we will now take items 7 and 8 together.
Okay, item number 7, continued for March 23rd, 2014. CLA, CAO, Zoo Department, and Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association reports relative to the zoo's 3-year strategic and business marketing plan for fiscal years 2014-15 through 2016-17 pursuant to Los Angeles Administrative Code Section 22.711 and MOU and accompanying amendments with GLASA for programs and services to be provided in areas of public relations, marketing, special events, site rentals, and catered events. Item number 8 is a CAO report in response to adopted budget recommendation relative to instructing the Zoo Department and CAO to report on all of the city's MOUs with GLASA to include a comprehensive analysis of funding that GLASA received for the city and funding provided by GLASA to the Zoo Department. And number 2, difference and the interrelationship between the business marketing plan and marketing MOU, the reason for the projected deficit, and interrelationship between the gate fee and membership.
And Mr. Lid, have we received any comment cards on these items?
There are no comment cards.
Thank you.
On either item.
I would therefore like to invite up CAO, representing CAO, Janelle Irving, and Zoo Director, Mr. John Lewis. And I know, we don't. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to just give a quick little preamble to this and why this is so important. We're working against the calendar a little bit on this one. Each of the MOUs that are going to be discussed very briefly expired in 2012, except for the marketing MOU, which expires in June of 2016 and requires council ratification by September 30th of this year. So we're moving forward with these reports, and I just, a little later, I'll kind of wrap things up, but I just wanted to put that out there, why we're meeting on these important items. On the MOU that was adopted before the current council was seated of July 1st of last year. So a little bit of background, and with that, a lot of conversation, a lot of work, negotiations, countless hours of meetings have gone into getting us to where we are today so we can stage this to go to the full City Council and the rest of our colleagues. And having said that, Ms. Irving, would you like to begin?
Yes. Good afternoon. Janelle Irving with the Office of the CAO. As part of the 2014-15 adopted budget, a motion was introduced requesting a report back on all of the zoo's memoranda of understanding with the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association, GLASA. This office, in conjunction with the Zoo Department, has prepared the attached report, which includes an analysis of the revenues, expenses, and services provided under the terms of each MOU, as well as a discussion of additional GLAZA financial contributions, the admissions and membership fees recoup factor, and the Department's 2013-14 revenue deficit. The Department and GLAZA are partners in the operation and success of the Los Angeles Zoo. GLAZA is responsible for fundraising to support exhibits and programs managed by the department. Further, GLAZA operates and manages more than 10 programs and services for the benefit of the LA Zoo as designated and governed by the operating agreement and the various MOUs. Currently, as discussed, there are a total of 5 MOUs with GLAZA, including membership, concessions, financial assistance, and the conservation carousel, as well as the marketing and public relations. Although 4 of these are currently expired, the Department and GLAZA agreed to continue to operate under the terms of the prior MOUs until such time as the LA Zoo's revised business and marketing plan is approved and successor MOUs can be executed. The MOU for marketing, public relations, site rentals, and catered services, as well as the updated business and marketing plan, are pending before this committee. The Zoo Director, Mr. Lewis, will discuss the updates and amendments that have been made to these items. As such, our recommendations are as follows. 1. Approve the updated 3-year business and marketing plan. 2. Determine that the MOU between the Zoo and GLAZA for marketing, public relations, site rentals, and catered events as amended is in conformance to the approved plan. 3. Ratify the marketing, public relations, site rentals, and catered events MOU as amended and required in Section 7 of the MOU. And 4, instruct the Zoo Department, with assistance of the CAO and City Attorney, to update as necessary all expired MOUs and other agreements between the City and GLAZA in conformance to the approved plan. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And before we do, Ms. Irving, we'll hear from John.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, John Lewis, General Manager of the Los Angeles Zoo and Botanical Gardens. Appreciate the opportunity. We have all been working hard on this process, trying to answer all the questions that came up from the previous transmittals. So as it relates to the business and marketing plan, the one that was submitted in November of 2013, we've gone back and listening to this committee as well as Budget and Finance, made some adjustments to our plan. Specifically, we've eliminated any assumptions about general fund contributions in future years. We've eliminated assumptions regarding exemption from the managed hiring process, although we're always willing to consider it. We have provided additional detail on the marketing budgets included in the plan, and we've updated the financial information for fiscal years 13 and 14, since we have actuals at this point, and also for 14 and 15. Otherwise, the plan essentially remains the same. We have four key goals going forward: to develop the zoo campus, enhance our conservation programs, community and human capital development at the zoo. The part of the new business plan, I think it was in the last plan, but one of the things that we've been working on is a new vision statement for the zoo. And that vision statement is that we will leverage the diverse resources of Los Angeles to be an innovator in the global zoo community and create dynamic experiences to connect visitors and animals. We think we have a unique opportunity in this community to do that, and not only to enhance the Los Angeles Zoo, but also to help our entire industry step forward. The goals, as I mentioned, were to enhance our campus, enhance our conservation programs, look for other ways to be involved in the community, and also to enhance and develop our human capital at the zoo, developing and training and taking advantage of the strong staff that we have at the Los Angeles Zoo. The MOU for the PR and marketing, we have developed a third amendment that tries to address the concerns and questions from this committee and Budget and Finance as well. That third amendment, among other things, clarifies GLAZA's commitment as a partner to provide an enhanced level of marketing for the zoo that will provide set levels of financial support This past year, they contributed $2,550,000 for marketing the zoo. In their current year budget, they have identified $2,756,000, and they agreed to budget next year $2,966,241. Remind the committee that prior to this agreement, our annual marketing budget was $800,000. So that was really the driver behind this, was to get more money to share with the rest of the city what great things are going on at the zoo. The city and the zoo will not be responsible to GLAZA for any shortfalls in revenues and admission targets that are not achieved. That was one question that we were asked from the attached budgets as part of the original MOU. We also have developed annual milestones to be achieved by GLAZA's marketing efforts based on defined performance metrics, and those will be based on a baseline of fiscal year 12-13. The original MOU was using our proposed budget, which of course we didn't reach, so we think it's only fair to look at what we actually accomplished and use that as the growth parameters going forward. The CAO and the CLA have the right to review all of GLAZA's documents, including but not limited to their annual financial audits and third-party contracts for services performed at or related to the zoo. GLAZA will provide the zoo with material needed for the zoo to provide biannual reports to the council through this committee, and so that you can be informed and see the progress that we're making. And it restates the city's right to terminate the MOU for convenience at any time with 180 days written notice. So we think we've tried to address all of the concerns that the council has had, and I'd be also happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Before we start, I just want to say to my colleagues here, I said this in the preamble, countless hours have gone into what you have touched upon here. So many details beneath the language that you both just described, working with the CLA, CAO, City Attorney, Zoo, GLAZA, my staff, and I feel that we have ironed out and addressed every single concern and in a very exemplary way. And this was fairly apparent last year, but it's a new era on the City Council. It's a new era in the relationship, I think, moving forward. And I know that the concerns I expressed it was back in December, I believe, in the joint committee hearing, was that I think for the general public's sense of security and expectation, we needed to have full accountability, full transparency, and then an opt-out, a very clear opt-out if the benchmarks weren't being met. And I think that I know we have all of that now locked into this third amendment to the contract. Having said all that, there is no better steward of the zoo than GLAZA. That's crystal clear to me, and that's something that I've learned to appreciate over the past year. And I'm very pleased that we've come to this state, and I think that this helps set the tone and set the standard for a better relationship with the city moving forward as never before. So I can also just take a moment, and I know we have questions, and I think the questions should come, but take a moment to thank Tom LaBonge for his leadership with GLAZA, who has really carried the relationship forward all these years because he's such a believer in the zoo and the resource and the organization that has been busy doing great things for the zoo for 51 years now, since 1963. So I think we're well on our way to something really solid, and I just wanted to put this out there. So I'd like to open, all of my questions have been answered. I've got nothing left, but I know that my colleagues may very well have some questions or concerns to state.
Well, Mr. O'Farrell, thank you. Colleagues, thank you. And thank the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association. It was before me. Mayor Bradley was a champion for this. John Farrar was a champion for this. Joe Wax was a champion for this. Others are. And I don't know all if, and I see the CAO here, but it would be good to maybe have us report sometime on all the foundations that do help the city, whether it's the Library Foundation or it's the Police Commission's Foundation or the Los Angeles Police Foundation, Fire Commission. I'm going to present this. Would you hand this to the CAO? Because maybe, do you ever write motions? I know the CLA usually does, but whatever the case is, I think we should learn about this because it's partnerships. The County of Los Angeles has partnerships. The Hollywood Bowl is owned and operated by the Los Angeles Parks and Recreation Department for the County of Los Angeles. but it's the Philharmonic Associates that give the support to bring what is the extra force of culture there, etc. So we should see this as an opportunity. I'm sorry it's taken so long, but everybody's smiling, everybody's happy, and John Farrell said, if you got the votes, shut up. Hope I got the votes.
Thank you. Mr. Buscaino, Mr. Price?
Just, again, I want to thank you for your efforts and for your commitment. And I know you've gone back and done a lot of retooling. I know one of the concerns that I raised, I think others, you can refresh my memory, on how steps you're going to take to broaden the audience. Certainly help expose communities that frequently have just not been there. Any discussion, any clarification on any programs or projects or initiatives that you think will help address that as we try to make the facilities available to all of our citizens?
Well, I think that is one of the points of this, is that we're trying to get the word out, whether it's just with straight-on advertising or marketing, but also looking at those communities that are not using the zoo and then figuring out ways to target. We don't have specific examples right now, but when we get this thing finalized, then that's one of the things we want to look at, is how to do that. It is getting to be tougher and tougher to draw the entire community in, and I will use this opportunity to just share again that as we try to find ways to have the zoo pay for itself, it's going to start excluding some folks, and we have to find ways to bring people back into the zoo, whether that's with special programs, donations and grants from foundations to bring those folks in, or looking at other ways. So I think we do need to be mindful of that our current model, if we're going to pay for ourselves, we may be making it tough for some people to use that service.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we're always seeking public-private partnerships, and this is a fine example of how one can be created with the LA Zoo. I want to thank Mr. Chairman for your leadership in driving everyone to the table and making this happen. I mean, I think we've been talking about this for 2 years now. Couple questions. I know the labor family had some issues with this. Where are we at with labor? Are we going to see any positions be eliminated from this MOU?
This marketing MOU did not, we did not have any layoffs or lose any positions with the marketing MOU. There were some staff that left the zoo on their own and ventured into new job opportunities, and those positions are still with the zoo held vacant. But the zoo still is responsible for public relations as it relates to animals, conservation, and crisis communications. So they still have aspects of public relations that division handles, and so there has not been any labor lost in this marketing MOU.
Very good. And marketing is key. As we know, we're trying to market and bring people down to the LA waterfront, and sometimes it takes the world's largest rubber duck to do just that. And in this case, it's seeking marketing opportunities. I agree with Mr. Price in his line of questioning and trying to find ways to bring people to our zoo. And how do we plan on competing with the San Diego Zoo and the zoos across the state? I mean, how do we get, like, the animal? What are you doing, John? Traveling and...
Well, we got Reggie the alligator. I don't know
That's
what we can do.
Aside from Reggie.
And Mario as well.
That's right, Mario the gander.
That's right. I think we have a good mix of animals at the zoo that are exciting to people, and the animals that we do have fall in the list nationally of animals that people expect to see. You know, there's not a giant panda, for example, but there are a lot of very interesting, very charismatic species at the zoo. So it's really just sharing our story more and more. We're still hear from particular areas of the city that they didn't even know there was a zoo in Griffith Park, and they grew up in Los Angeles. So there's a lot of work there to do that. The good news is, you know, San Diego's a good partner with us. We do a lot of work, particularly in the conservation arena, with them. So we don't see ourselves competing as much as we complement each other, but I'd like to see them complementing at my doorstep more so than down south.
And lastly, if I can, Mr. Chair, what I like about this agreement with GLAZA is that you have deliverables set. And if those deliverables are not met, then the dollars will continue to be spent on the zoo. Bless you. And especially with the marketing strategy that over a 3-year period indicates that if the emission targets aren't met, GLASA agrees to continue to spend the same amount of money for marketing. And some of the reasons why I'm supporting this moving forward on it.
Terrific. I have a suggestion. Let's put out an RFP for a 60-foot-tall gorilla that can sit in the parking lot of the zoo and attract visitors.
Can you imagine?
No, okay, I'm just putting it out there.
That's a call
You
for
just
artists.
made me think
Do a call for artists.
Made me think of it. All right.
I think a duck was scary.
So no, that's good stuff, and I want to thank a few more people for this. We're gonna move forward, but I want to also thank Andrea Galvin, Sharon So, and Karen Kalfalian, and Jerry Miller from the CLA's office who sat in on all those meetings. Janelle, I think this is the first time you've officially testified in committee from the CIO's office, so
Yes.
well done, congratulations. And Terry Sauer, who changed her flight for her vacation. I'm gonna brag about you anyway, to be in committee because it's so important, and I thank you for that. And Miguel Santana, of course, John Lewis, and Denise. Denise, you're here too, thank you. And Dove Laisel, who has worked on this from the City Attorney's Office, and AP, of course. APDS, sitting right there, thank you. Like I mentioned, a lot of work has gone into this. I think now is just a really appropriate time to thank everyone. And then, lastly, my staff, Star Parsamian and David Hiron, who have just really put their heart and soul into getting this right. It's important that we get this right. And I think we're there. And I feel very prepared, very confident, and very secure in moving forward with this marketing plan and MOU. Without further...
No, I just want to thank you, Mr. O'Farrell, and your leadership. And Mr. Price, I just want to suggest it, because I think that too, maybe we could come up with a plan, zip codes, invitations to say, the month of February, everybody in whatever the zip codes are, invite them half price, just to see if you get, and maybe it's days that are not, they do that at some amusement parks when it's not tourist season. So just to keep it going. So it's off season, but still it could be interesting to that. And members, just to let you know, and I hope I'm not out of line, Mr. City Attorney, but I provided a grant to I provided a grant to the zoo at the GLASA to bring back the holiday lights in the zoo, and there's a program, and we're going to have every night. One night is going to be the 15th. The 9th, or a couple of districts together where you can invite people, and we're going to work it out. There will be a fee charge, but we're going to try to work it out that the council could invite community leaders and their families at some point so that we could celebrate the holidays on that. And thanks to GLASA. Without GLASA, we couldn't get it done. So this is all the partnership that we're talking about.
Thank you. So my recommendations are as followed. I want to articulate. We'll note and file item 7. And approve item 8, CAO recommendations 1, 2, and 3 as is, and approve CAO recommendation 4 as amended to instruct the following. The Zoo Department, with the assistance of the CAO, CLA, and City Attorney, to update as necessary all expired MOUs and other agreements between the City and GLASA, and report to City Council prior to execution of any MOU and/or agreements between the Zoo Department and GLASA. Furthermore, instruct the Zoo Department to come back in 30 days with a report on concessions contracts and the department's staffing and funding needs required to release an RFP for concessions. And lastly, request the controller, upon receipt of funds from GLASA in the amount of $447,837 from unallocated membership program revenue from years past, to deposit said funds into the Zoo Enterprise Trust Fund. And those are my recommendations. Thank you. Thank you. So without objection, we will move this forward. Okay.
As amended.
I think we did it as amended. We have moved forward as amended. And lastly, I'd like to refer this to the Budget and Finance Committee.
And can we ask that they hear it so we get it to council and get everybody moving on? Because every day we're not doing it.
Right. That's
CAO's not smiling.
That's a
right?
distinct possibility.
Okay.
So, but we'll refer it first and go from there. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. And with that, is that all the items? That's it. All right. We will adjourn this.